teaching techniques they were structuring around it. Jana's mentioned the pyramid technique, for example, other techniques that people might use. A huge unwieldy activity, and that distills down into this, what appears to be very simple pedagogical profile, but it's grounded in really good evidence and good pedagogy. But that's, the teacher's shielded from that. They don't have to become an expert in constructivism or whatever it might be. They can just focus on what's relevant for their own design practice. Other questions? Anybody on the right-hand side? To be fair, we have to oscillate between left and right.
Perhaps people can reflect on their own experience of people who see themselves as learning designers or designers for learning, or and mention how you see the ideas that Ronnie presented referring to your own practice.
And well, and in this case, one important thing when I was asking, when we were sharing in the beginning your profiles, it was we could see that there are some people that could be called designers for institutions or learning designers in general terms. Some of you say that you are also teachers, teaching practitioners, and then others who organize the settings so that others can design their learning, and others who design the tools so that others can use. So I think that this is one of the main, and of course academics. Okay, these are I think that the different types of actors that we have here: developers of tools, designers of institutions, teaching practitioners, and academics. And I don't know how you identify yourselves with this topic, but at least from my point of view, that I'm an academic and a developer and a teaching practitioner, I think in my case that what has been, the actor who has been disregarded a lot is the practitioner. Okay? That's why we do have lots of workshops with practitioners. But it's up to you to say whether you face, if you design a course or whatever for an institution, what do you do first? I mean, you just see what are the resources and you collect them, or you just see and design something from scratch, or what do you do? And this is the point of learning design. Start from scratch. Could be. So.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question for Brain. How do you see the emerging trend of learning analytics into continuous improvement and learning design?
Yeah, I think that's a really exciting area, and people like George Siemens are helping to lead on this new area. For those of you who haven't come across the term before, essentially it's around how can we better harness the very rich data that's now available in our learning management systems, and what kind of tools might we create that can visualize that data in different ways, beyond the basic limited monitoring facilities that many VLEs have. I was lucky enough to be involved in the first Learning Analytics Conference, which was run in Banff in February, which brought together some of the key people who are trying to articulate this very, very new area. And there's another conference coming up, if you're interested in it, in Vancouver, I think in April. I'd really recommend going to that. I think the two complement each other. I didn't show in the views here, but in the OU, in addition to the 5 conceptual views, we also developed 2 data-driven views. So one view was based around student performance, perceptions, retention. Because it's no good developing a really wacky, wonderful Web 2-based course if all the students hate it and they all drop out. And the second view, and that was gathered through rich data from evaluation of students, retention statistics, progression statistics, etc. And the OU is very fortunate in that it has a whole student survey team that do that work for us. So at a click of the button, we can see immediately the statistics for a course, and we we can relate it back to the course views. The second one is based around finance. Very important. Again, no point in developing an amazing course if it's going to cost a fortune. Or it might be that you do want to have one in the institution that's a flagship, but it could be good bread and butter ones are important as well. So you can oscillate between these five conceptual tools and the 2 data-driven tools in this way. And I think as we get a better handle on learning analytics and we start to see the emergence of new tools for learning analytics, they can be a very powerful critical reflection on how effective that design is. I said at the beginning, one of the things is, how do we know how effective a design is? We only know in the action, going back to the latest point earlier on about you only know when you're in, actually learning. How does it work in practice? How is it received by the students? Is it impacting on learning? Is it helping to improve learning? Is it having the intended learning outcomes that the designer wanted? So I think there's a huge potential, but it's a very, as you know, it's a very, very new field. But I think, and interestingly, the Horizon report mentioned the learning analytics, as I said, as the key technology to impact within the 5-year time frame. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, hi.
Hi. Just to answer your question, do we start from the scratch? I can just give you an example of how we introduced a virtual microscope. Actually, I will give a presentation on Friday on this, but I can tell you how we did it. So, first we had already a tool which was old, and we said, now we have to do something new. And the first thing we did is we defined some requirements, right? So we did some functional requirements, we did some technical requirements, and the next step was a market overview. There are thousands of tools around. I didn't look all 1,000 tools, I stopped at the third one. The third one did all our requirements fulfilled. It has an excellent price. We introduced it, we did an evaluation, everything was fine. This is how we did it. Very practical approach.
Well, okay, so you did all that process to select the tool,
Yes,
right?
after that.
But what about how is the tool actually embedded in your pedagogy?
Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more. I wrote a concept, and I involved teachers, of course. So I did it on my own, yeah? I did it with a team. So in the team there were also teachers who used it, yeah? So we use it mainly in virtual lessons, in pure virtual lessons. And we did not involve students though, so I thought the tool will be useful for students. This was an assumption, and it was true after the evaluation. So I proved that it was good, yeah? So you can also involve students, of course. And we had it already in our virtual lessons, so we just had to replace it. So it was not a completely new thing. A completely new thing is, for example, now we start with e-lectures. This is a completely new thing. So we are just, but the same thing. I started with a concept, involved teachers. We spread information out to our teachers. We make a pilot, we make an evaluation, and then we make a service. This is basically how we do it.
Yeah, but I think in the technical, and I come also from a technical background. In the technical world, we have very well established processes for, as you said, we did a needs analysis, we did a specification, we did market research. All these processes are very well established, and we know how to do them, right? And then when we go into but actually how is this thing going to be used by teachers, by students, and so on? I think we're getting there. We're very close to having such processes, well-defined processes, but not just the area. And the problem is a lot of times then institutions would invest a lot of money in, say, purchasing, whether it's a virtual Microsoft or an LMS or whatever other resource.
It was 400 euros more. Nothing more, one time. Just to tell you. It was really cheap.
Well, very well done then.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I mean, institutions will invest a lot of effort in the wires or in the software, but then if it's not used effectively, then all that investment is just in vain. Right?
That's right. Yeah. But I can tell you, it was already used, and we just migrated the already used ones. With the e-lectures, we're just starting. So this is a lot of communication, of course, presentation, and so on.
Yeah, I think that this is the one of the main issues now, and at least 30 years ago, with this field, in which we want to see what are the activities around resources that can be used in order to learn. Okay, so this is the point of the workshop. So I hope that we will give, after the coffee break, an overview of few techniques and a few tools, and if everything goes on well, then we can try all these ideas in the afternoon session. Okay? So, as I said before, we had assigned 15 minutes for the coffee break. Let's try to do our best. I mean, it's 11:27.
You have 3 extra minutes.
Okay, and but try, if possible, to be back with the goal of 11:45. Okay.
John, is it safe for people to leave the laptop?
I don't know, but probably I will be here. So yes.
Please, can you bring us your consent forms, and if you have any issues with being photographed, please also
Yes,
tell us.
you can leave the machines. If you can trust me, I hope that there are no thieves around.
Yeah, I think it's safe. Yeah.
I will be here.
I love my Mac, so finally bring your coffee. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Charlottenburg, I think. Yeah, I was started. But this one I've marked because I never been there.
If you email me, we can access to the...
Everybody's. I mean, because they are not
Sorry, unfortunately, I forgot to do it.
Oh, right.
This is pushing.
But I'm just
I mean,
Do you want to say?
And then we went for the...
there's a train at 6 o'clock.
So it was very visible over the years, and now I wish I particularly really helped with kind of... Michael,
Sorry?
Ed Media. Yeah, this lady's asking for me how... I thought you were just...